Outnumbered, I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Also joining me today, Sandra Smith, co-anchor of America Reports. Marie Hart, Fox News contributor and former State Department spokesperson under President Obama. Kaylee McGee-White, Independent Women Features editor-in-chief and journalism fellow for the Steamboat Institute. And Paul Morrow, Fox News contributor, attorney, retired NYPD inspector, and founder of OpsDesk.org. Well, let's start here with growing calls for the desperate Democratic Party to move even further left, as if that's the answer. Top Democrats tell Axios the party is in its deepest hole in nearly 50 years, and they list out like 12 reasons for that. And they fear it will only get worse as time goes on. So who's the new Democratic savior this week? Bring in Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's been increasingly discussed as a leading star of the party, even among centrists, interestingly. And now the New York Times is naming AOC as a potential 2028 presidential contender. Democrats are doubling down on their progressive policies that lost them the White House and Congress. That's the big picture here. And they're looking for a leader to encapsulate that. Quote, though there is little disagreement about who will emerge to guide progressives into a post-Sanders era, virtually everyone interviewed said there was one clear leader for the job, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. You know, Sandra, I want to bring up this picture, and it is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez kind of languishing away at the border. This was during Trump era 1.0. And she's in this beautiful white outfit, and she's protesting, and it was very dramatic. And the country is just a long way from that image and that moment, encapsulated by this Washington Post headline. I mean, this is WAPO. I never thought I'd see a headline like this. Trump's migrant roundups have a crucial ally, public opinion. And they note there 89% support deporting criminals, 62% support deporting non-violent criminals. We're a long way from that kind of progressivism.
A lot that Mark Penn said the other day stuck out to me about looking at the Democratic Party and making the same mistakes that they did of yesteryear, and it's not standing for something. In fact, I thought his advice to his party was really instructive. He said, make up a list of things you really want, and a list of things that you're willing to cooperate with. Are you willing to cooperate with closing the border? Bringing up that picture made me think of that. Or was it all a ruse and you're really for an open border? Are you willing to cooperate with reducing the size of government and the deficit forces them into the Doge situation? Are you for it or are you against it? Do you have things that you want like climate change, inflation, helping working people that you can put forth to do a compromise? And I think Democrats would behoove themselves if they took a good hard look and asked themselves that question. But he was very firm in his warning to his party. If AOC were to come in with a challenge here, he said every moderate that is left, any moderate, I should say, that is left in that party is going to flee. And this is going to be a party no more because they just can't keep moving further to the left based on what we have seen with recent elections.
Yeah, Paul, here's the quagmire. The Democratic base is spoiling for a fight. And we have an NBC poll that reflects that. 65% say they would rather not see the party get things done and stick to their guns, even if it means just gridlock in Washington. And that's versus 32%. That's Democrats. But when you broaden it out, 50%, majority of the country essentially say congressional Democrats are too critical of Trump. So you have this disconnect. You've got to please the 34,000 people showing up to a Sanders AOC rally, but you don't want to lose the middle.
Yeah, I think, they're misreading the room here, and they're misreading where the fault line is on the left. Right now, the schism is between the hyper-progressives and this more traditional moderates. So, sure, you can get 30,000 people on the mall in Washington, D.C., because that's blue Washington, right? That's progressive Washington. That was a swamp-class picture is what that was, okay? But, okay, I'm sure you can get it there. But are there no lessons to be learned from the recent election where all the traditional Democratic voting blocs moved to the right? And what Donald Trump really did is he managed to capture a lot of the traditional Democratic blue-collar workers. The reason why he did so well in Michigan, the tariffs are going to help that because this is one of the things that the Democrats have been asking for a long time, which we need to bring back manufacturing. Now, reasonable minds can disagree on tariffs, but the bottom line is he wants to bring the manufacturing here. And just coming up with bumper sticker campaigns like fight the oligarchy. If you went into that crowd and said specifically, what is the oligarchy? What are you fighting? Who's the oligarchy that you're really concerned? How does it affect your life? You're going to get blank stares. It doesn't compel. And last thing real quick, we know AOC in this city here in New York. This is the person who killed the Amazon jobs who were coming in here. She was part of that cadre that killed thousands of good jobs. Number two, she was the Duchess of Defund. So these are all things that have gone way down the tank here that nobody wants. And those are her legacy. Who they should be listening to is Fetterman. That's a different story.
100% agree with that. Marie, and people like Alyssa Slotkin. So your party puts up, as the State of the Union response, Alyssa Slotkin, who outperformed Kamala in a ton of places. But then when you look at the map, you've got a tough 2026 Senate map. You have only 2 Republicans in districts that Kamala won versus 23 last time around in Trump administration and Hillary districts. So what do you do? How do you thread the needle? Your party wants someone like Alyssa Slotkin, but the only person getting double digits as party leader is AOC.
I think the party actually understands there's a place for both. The Alyssa Slotkins, Josh Shapiro's, Wes Moores of the world, they are winning in states that matter, right? They are putting forward a moderate view of how to grow the middle class. By the way, it's not tariffs. As tariffs start to really impact the middle class, voters in states like Michigan that are incredibly impacted by trade with Canada are going to be really mad at Donald Trump. But AOC is getting tens of thousands of people at these rallies, and there are some early signs that Republicans are in a little bit of trouble. First, we've seen all of these Republican town halls.
The Democrat town halls are crazy.
Let me finish. And then, for example, in a seat like Mike Waltz's seat, his open seat in Florida, the Democrat has raised $9 million, and the Republican has raised under $1 million. Republicans in Congress now that I'm talking to are worried that they are going to either lose that seat or it's going to be very close. So there's a lot of discontent right now in the country in general. But what I am hearing is that average voters whose prices haven't gone down, who are worried about tariffs, whose friends are losing their job, look at the richest man in the world, look at this billionaire cabinet, and they think, Donald Trump said he was going to make my life better. It's not. It's worse. And AOC and other Democrats are actually putting forward an economic vision for the middle class. And we can talk about everything from middle class tax cuts, not tax cuts for the wealthy. I mean, look at Kamala Harris's platform, quite frankly. Housing.
Which didn't work. How did that work out? 80 million votes for Trump, nearly.
But this is the thing. When voters in the middle class see that Trump's policies are not working for them, and they are not, and Democrats can, the midterm, Republicans, downplay this opposition at their own peril. I lived through the Obamacare town halls. When you start counseling town halls,
but the talking point about town halls, I'm sorry, is nullified.
Kayleigh.
Glenn Ivey had a town hall.
Just wait until next November.
I'll send you the footage. We played it on this show last week. Glenn Ivey's in a deep blue district. He held a town hall. He was shouted down
because they want him to be more progressive and more anti-Trump.
And he was saying Chuck Schumer should step down, but that wasn't progressive
for
enough.
a different reason than Republicans are being shouted down.
It's interestingly, and we're gathering the footage actually for this show of all the town halls. It's not just deep blue Virginia. It's elsewhere in the country as well. Kayleigh McGee-White, someone who disagrees with Marie Harf, is Bill Maher. He thinks Democrats have not hit the bottom yet. Watch this.
This is really bad news for Democrats. 2030 reapportionment, there's a group called the American Redistricting Project, and in 5 years we will be redistricting. California is projected to lose 3 seats, New York 2, also going to lose a seat, Minnesota, Oregon, Rhode Island, Illinois, all blue states. Who's getting these? Texas, Florida, Idaho, and Utah. I mean, this looks like game over.
Game over, Kayleigh.
And this is the political reality that Democrats don't want to face. And look, we can talk about how there's a lot of anger among the Democratic base in particular, but the fact is that rage and resentment is not a winning agenda. And when you look at Trump, he was not selling rage and resentment. He was selling an agenda that works for the working class and actually betters the lives of all Americans, which, by the way, his economic agenda did a great job during his first term. I don't hear any Democrats raising that point. And I'll just say, Democrats think that they can change the perception of their party without changing the actual policies that led to the negative perception in the first place. You cannot run someone like AOC or Bernie Sanders on a national scale. And I say this as someone who is from one of those critical swing states back in my home state of Michigan. If you think Kamala Harris did poorly, just wait until you run AOC, who is very comfortable in her D+28 advantage New York district in the swing state of Michigan. It will never work. The party has to go back to the center, and you deny that at your own peril.
Can I just finish this talking point about prices coming down in 2 months?
That was 2 months.
From the record highs that were set under the previous
day one.
I think it's only pushing the fact that prices were run up so much under a Democratic administration, and oil and gas prices and energy prices and electricity
And
prices
eggs.
have come down. So I think you have to let these policies have a chance, because once you have lower energy prices work through a system, that can eventually lead to lower prices. But 2 months that's pretty quick.
2 months, and there's still plurality support for tariffs in the NBC poll. So there's that too. Elon Musk warns he has had enough of the insults and smears. The Democrat, he's now threatening to sue next. But he's survived. Senior Trump advisor Elon Musk has faced repeated and very personal attacks since he's teamed up with President Trump and started Doge. The left has called him everything from a con man to an oligarch, and even worse than that.
Elon Musk is incompetent in his position. And how do we know? Because they fired tens of thousands of people, was challenged in court. The court said the people have to go back, and now the people are coming back. He's incompetent. He's a thief. He's a Nazi, and people don't trust him.
Jamal Bowman saying someone's incompetent in their position. Didn't you lose your seat to George Latimer? Oh, yeah, that happened. Well, now Musk says he is done with this, and he shot back at Bowman's comments, posting, "I've had enough, lawsuit inbound." And Attorney General Pam Bondi also sending a warning to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett after this remark.
I am truly here for very selfish reasons. Starting with on March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes.
This is domestic terrorism. And Maria, now you have this Congresswoman Crockett who is calling for attacks on Elon Musk on her birthday. Let's take him out on my birthday, she says. And yet she turns and says, oh, I'm not calling for violence. Well, she is an elected public official. And so she needs to tread very carefully, because nothing will happen to Elon Musk.
You know, Paul, as I look at this, Jasmine Crockett insisted, she was not encouraging any sort of violence. I still don't know why you would make a remark like that. But putting her aside and looking broadly at what's happening with Tesla, the FBI, I was looking at their website about what domestic terrorism is. You can see this when you intend to intimidate and coerce the civilian population, influence the policy of government. Several of these acts clearly are intended to do just that.
The problem is we don't have a domestic terrorism law at the federal level, because in the terrorism world federally, you have to have a connection to a foreign power. So when we say a domestic terrorism incident, it can be without actually charging it. And that's why something like, I think it's about up to 35 states have terrorism laws so that they can do just that. You remember the Waukesha parade, the Christmas parade, the guy drove through a parade? Everybody wanted that to be terrorist. There's not a federal statute that's on point. And the reason for that is that on the right, the fear is that it would be weaponized against the right. And that's generally the debate you see in legal circles. So that's just sort of the framework. But what you can do is, number one, follow the money. And that goes to some of the stuff that goes on these campuses. There's been significant reporting, responsible reporting, that there is Iranian money going into some of these groups that act on campuses. Well, now you have a tie to a foreign nation. Okay, so that's potentially a terrorism charge at the federal level. But what you can also do is what Musk is talking about, which is sue. Some of this stuff is blatantly defamatory. It's encouraging violence. In my mind, some of the things that we're seeing in the media, it's extremely irresponsible. And I think Bowman's way over the line.
Totally. And so maybe some sort of civil action, which, Kaylee, you look at this. I mean, the number of people, the voices out there, Ayanna Pressley called him a Nazi Nepo baby. You remember the left going nuts. This includes people in the media suggesting he did a Nazi salute, which he did not. It was an absolute lie. And Mae Musk, his mother, said, we need to go after some of these people.
Yeah, I'm not in the business of defaming people regularly on TV, but I certainly would not want to defame the world's richest man who could absolutely bring a lawsuit against you. Right. So it's kind of inexplicable why Democrats are running with this attack. But, the vandalism of Tesla in general, the attacks, the constant barrage of attacks against Elon Musk, the Democrats' inability to separate the political from the personal is a big reason why they are so unlikable right now. Sometimes a car is just a car. And most Americans look at a Tesla and they're wondering whether to buy one. And they're asking questions like, can I afford to install a charger in my garage? Not, well, is Elon Musk a fascist and should I be supporting his agenda? These are not questions that normal Americans ask themselves. And quite frankly, we've talked a lot about whether there's regret among independents and moderate voters for supporting Trump. If you are looking at what is happening with Elon Musk and Tesla right now, I cannot think of a single better way to guarantee that people do not regret voting for Trump. Because when you are looking at what is coming from the Democratic Party, voters see chaos, they see rage, and they see violence. This is not a party interested in winning people back, if that is the tactic.
You know, speaking of someone not separating political and personal, let's bring in Tim Walz. He talked to us about his personal phone, things he does, and now he's saying he doesn't do it anymore. Watch.
On the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. This guy bugs me in a way that is probably unhealthy. And but I have to be careful about being a smart. I was making a joke. These people have no sense of humor. They are the most literal people.
Sandra, that's classic.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't mean it. I was a joke.
I didn't find anything funny about that. In fact, there's nothing funny about any leader or member of Congress, as we saw earlier in the segment, wishing and praying on the demise of American people, of American businesses, American stocks, which means American retirement funds. A big mistake on his part, says Ro Khanna, member of the Democrat Party, whose voice should grow louder as we hear more talk like that coming from their party. On Elon Musk, he's incompetent, he's a thief, he's a Nazi, people don't trust him. According to Jamal Bowman, simple reminder, remember he notoriously pulled the fire alarm in Congress over negotiations over the government shutdown and lost to George Latimer, we should note. But nothing funny about rooting on the demise of people and money and American companies. And it's just not going to work for them to keep that up.
I mean, Marie, I've got to ask you, though, where are the Democratic voices like Ro Khanna? Ro Khanna has categorically condemned this.
He's out
Why
there
doesn't
all
Nancy
over, he's
Pelosi,
out there
Chuck
all over
Schumer?
the media.
Where are the others?
Here's the problem, though, Sandra.
Where are the others,
with what
though?
you said. Elon Musk is standing on stage at CPAC with a chainsaw, making fun of firing federal workers who make $50,000 a year. So, sure, should Tim Walz have made that joke? I don't think so.
I think it was a chainsaw to government spending.
No, he was saying we are taking a chainsaw, we are firing people, these people who cannot now afford health care. They cannot afford to pay their mortgage. These are not just liberal bureaucrats in D.C.
Where was the concern for auto workers who were laid off during the Biden
They are all across the country. And I just will say, Elon has made the personal political. He brought Tesla to the White House. They did an event with Tesla at the White House. And Elon and Trump both have said the worst things about people on X, on the campaign trail, and I don't hear Republicans upset about all of those things.
But should more Democrats condemn firebombing Tesla facilities?
Well, of course, Kayleigh, but there's a big difference between firebombing Tesla and saying that Elon Musk has very dangerous ideas. He is hurting average Americans. The world's richest man who makes millions from the U.S. government is taking away, elderly people's pensions because He is every single day. I know people who have lost their jobs because of Elon and they cannot pay for childcare now. That is a terrible, that he jokes about it and laughs about it. Let's talk about that.
His dangerous ideas saved 2 people from space who were stranded during the Biden era. So there's that.